Hi everyone, welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're making something a little bit different. This is a fermented hot pepper sauce. And this one's made from a mix of hot peppers that we grew in our garden here, and after just a couple of weeks of fermentation it turns into a flavorful, tangy, funky, spicy sauce that's perfect on just about anything. So if you've never tried fermenting before, don't worry, it's surprisingly simple, and the results are way more complex and I think more interesting than a quick vinegar-based hot sauce. So for this batch I used a mixture of hot peppers, water, some salt, and then after fermenting I blended in some extra hot chili flakes just for some extra heat and depth. And then you also need a jar or something to ferment in. So let's get started. First I'll wash and chop up all these peppers. Now you can use any mix you like, jalapenos, cayenne peppers, serranos, even a few super hots like ghost peppers or something if you wanted to push it. I like mixing different varieties because it gives you a more rounded flavor. I'm actually not sure what a few of these peppers are. We bought a bunch at the nursery this year and didn't really keep good track of what we had bought, but I know this is a mixture of medium to medium hot varieties. And I'm weighing these out so I know exactly how much salt I'll have to add to the brine. Next, I'm going to add enough water here to completely cover the peppers. In this case, that works out to about 1,100 grams of water. Now, we'll do some math, and then I'll add the salt. I'm using 56 grams of salt here dissolved into the water, and that's a 3.5% brine solution, which is strong enough to keep any unwanted bacteria at bay, but perfect for encouraging the good kind of bacteria we want, lactobacillus, to do their thing. You can lacto-ferment at anywhere from 2% to 10% salt concentration, and for most pickles around 3% is usually what I would target, but for this hot sauce where it has the potential to sit in the jar in the fridge for up to a couple of months, I like to boost the salt up to 3.5 or even as high as 4%. Now, you mix everything together, and it's important that all the peppers get underneath the liquid. If they're exposed to any air, then they can start to mold. Now they make some glass fermentation weights that you can place into the jar here to help keep everything under the surface, but I don't have any of those, so I'm just going to rig a Ziploc bag here. In fact, I ended up using 2 Ziploc bags, which actually brought the surface of the liquid in the jar right up to the rim, so even these few pieces that are floating up here beside the Ziploc bags are still well under the surface of the salt water. Now cover this jar loosely. You want the gases to be able to escape, but you don't want dust or insects getting in. So if you have a jar with an airlock like this, that's great. Just fill it with a little bit of water and screw the cap on. But if you're using a mason jar or an old pickle jar or something, you could just tie a cloth over the mouth of the jar, which will allow for air transfer, but keep the dust and dirt and bugs out. Now the easy part. You just leave this jar at room temperature, preferably out of direct sunlight, and I let mine go here for about 2.5 weeks. And you can see over time that the brine starts to go cloudy, bubbles will start to form, and you'll start to get a really nice tangy, slightly sour smell when you take a whiff of it. These are all good signs that fermentation is working. What's happening here is lactobacillus bacteria are eating the sugars in the peppers and converting them into lactic acid. That acid helps to preserve the peppers and creates the complex tangy flavors. It's the same process behind making sauerkraut, kimchi, traditional pickles, and even sourdough bread. You may also notice that a thin whitish film forms on the surface of the brine, and that's called Kahm yeast. If you're new to fermenting, you might be concerned that this is mold or something that's unsafe, but it's really not, it's harmless. Now that said, if there is anything growing on the surface of the liquid or on the peppers themselves that is pink, orange, green, blue, just about anything but white, then you definitely have a problem and you should not eat the contents. Now here we are nearly 3 weeks later, and once your peppers have fermented, it's time to blend. So drain off the peppers, but definitely keep that brine. Add the peppers to the blender, along with some of the brine to make it the right consistency, and then just blend it until it's smooth. Now after tasting this one, it wasn't quite spicy enough, so I added in a good spoonful of chili flakes here to help deepen the flavor and just to add some heat, as this was a little bit milder than we wanted. You can adjust the thickness with more or less brine. I prefer a thicker, more ketchup-y kind of consistency, but you could make something much more liquidy, like a Tabasco style sauce. Once blended, pour the sauce into clean bottles or jars and just keep it in the fridge. This sauce will continue to ferment and the flavors will keep developing and changing over time. Also, this will stay good for months in your fridge. This sauce is bright, tangy, packs a nice punch, and has an underlying funkiness that you don't get with unfermented hot sauces. It's really amazing on eggs, it's great on tacos or grilled meats, noodles, or even just stirred into soups and stews for a little hit of heat. And the best part is you can customize it endlessly. Try a blend of different peppers, add some garlic, add a few onions in there. You can even add blueberries or raspberries or pineapple for a unique twist. In terms of cost, this one depends a lot on what type of peppers you're buying and what peppers cost in your market. Since I grew these myself, it worked out to just a few cents for the salt and the chili flakes, but I could see easily spending $10 or more for these peppers at the market. Fermentation took about 2.5 weeks, but the actual hands-on time was maybe 20 minutes in total. And that's it, homemade fermented hot sauce. Give it a try and let me know how it goes. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, and since this is still a new channel, I'd love it if you'd subscribe so I can keep bringing you more recipes and ideas just like this one. Thanks!